Hey guys, it's me Andrew, your favorite Canadian YouTuber, and I'm back with another video game review video. Today, I will be reviewing Deep Cuts on MetaQuest 3. And no, I'm not talking about Deep Cut from Splatoon 3. This is a pretty special review because this game was made by Sive Dev Team, the creators of one of my all-time favorite horror games, Happy's Humble Burger Farm. So I couldn't be any more honored to be given the opportunity to review this game. Before we get started, I want to give a huge special thanks to Sive Dev Team for providing me the review key for this game. To be honest, I've actually been trying to get this review done for a while now, but not only have I been very busy with college and a bunch of other stuff for the past few months, but out of all the games I reviewed so far, I think this one was the most difficult for me to review, mainly because it's a VR game and a rather intense one at that, and admittedly I don't exactly have my VR legs. So whenever I play a certain VR game that requires a lot of quick and intense movement and action, such as this game, I tend to feel motion sick after playing for a fair period of time. But of course, that's not really the game's fault, it's more just me not being very used to intense VR games like this, which made trying to play through this game quite a challenge for me, and it took a lot longer than I thought it would. But hey, now that I'm finally done, let's begin the review. Deep Cuts is a cinematic action-adventure physics-based VR game where you take on the role of Elise Weber, co-founder of the film production studio Lights Camera Faction, as they embark on a blockbuster quest to save their best friend and creative partner Malcolm by venturing through the duo's expansive film catalog. Each level is based on a different movie genre, including Wild West, medieval fantasy, slasher horror films, kaiju monster movies, futuristic sci-fi, old-fashioned noir detective films, and so much more. Not to mention, there's even a sandbox mode where you can just go crazy and mix it all up. This game is one hell of a crazy thrill ride from start to finish. Not to mention, it even contains some references to some of Sive Dev Team's other games here and there, such as Happy's Humble Burger Farm and Northberry Grove, since Deep Cuts is technically part of the same Scythian universe as those games. Heck, even Riki the Ravishing Rat from Sive's obscure dating sim Love at First Squeak makes an appearance in this game, although she's not quite as ravishing as she used to be. Throughout this cinematic adventure, you'll find all kinds of crazy items, props, tools, weapons, and more. In fact, you can save and catalog them using this thing called a Bodegun, which allows you to summon any item you want available at the cost of some credits. In fact, whenever you find credits lying around, make sure to collect as many as possible. You're gonna need them. Not to mention, it wasn't until around the noir theme level that I finally realized that in order to save the items I find and spawn them all at any time, I had to scan them with the Bodegun's catalog function. Well, better late than never, I guess. One of my favorite weapons I found was this really sick futuristic katana, as wielding it kind of felt almost like I was playing Shadow Warrior in VR. Anyway, throughout this chaotic film studio, the main NPCs you often encounter are these things called mechanoids, or mechas for short. They're basically robots that act as stand-ins and function like walking green screens, so any character can be digitally put on top of them in editing, so they look a lot less creepy in the final product when the movie's finished. There's also a new assortment of mascot horror-like characters designed to compete with the Barnyard Buds, known as the Learning Lads, which you'll encounter big, grotesque, mutated monster-like versions of them as bosses throughout the game, much like the Barnyard Buds in Happy's Humble Burger Farm. On another note, whenever you're done plowing through a movie genre level and just want to take some time to relax, there's plenty of little things to do around the main hub area, from playing a little game of pool or air hockey, to gambling, to hanging around with your buddy Benny in the lobby, who sounds like Bob from SFG4 and occasionally gives you a gift.
You've been so busy, I prepped this for you.
Now, in terms of Deep Cut's gameplay elements, I've heard a lot of people comparing this game to Boneworks, which I have not played, so I'm not familiar with any similarities the two games may have. A lot of this game's movements, physics, and various mechanics feel pretty floaty and ragdoll-like, which I guess isn't uncommon for a lot of VR games. Now, this game is quite different from many other games I've played in the past, including VR games, so it definitely took some time for me to learn the controls and get used to how the whole system works. Sometimes I had trouble getting a hold of the physics, especially when trying to open boxes or locks at the end of each level, but eventually I was able to get the hang of it for the most part. Now, aside from swinging weapons around like an intoxicated, trigger-happy ragdoll, there's also a slow-mo mechanic that comes in handy at times, though admittedly I kind of forgot it existed for a while. Alongside time slowing, there's also a few other abilities you unlock over time, such as superpowered punching, jumping really high with moon-like gravity, and eventually freeze framing, all of which require twisting the wrists a certain way, though it took me a bit of a while to figure that out. While there were definitely quite a few obstacles and learning curves with the gameplay that took me a while to adapt to, but the game has so much personality, atmosphere, and charm that it was enough to keep me pressing onward, much like Elise himself. Not only are a lot of the movie genre set theme levels quite beautiful and immersive in their own ways, but the game really nails when it comes to the tongue-in-cheek humor and clever dialogue. On top of that, the game has a pretty killer soundtrack. In fact, out of all the tracks in the game, I think my favorite song is Bourbon Blues from the noir theme level of The Row. It's such a catchy bop, I just had to buy it on Steam.
The sun is setting and the night rolls in. Time to have fun, let the party begin. You know that you gotta take 'em.
Now, of course, this game isn't perfect by any means, as there are some noticeable bugs here and there, which I kind of expected from a heavily physics-based VR game, but most of them were just funny glitches, such as Benny stuck clipping through his chair, or items slingshotting across the room for no explained reason. Throughout my entire time playing, I don't think I've ever encountered a single game-breaking bug that hinders the gameplay experience. The closest thing was that the game crashed only once near the end of the game, and while it was rather frustrating to retrace those steps all over again, but thankfully I didn't lose a ton of progress, and eventually I got through it. Now, I won't spoil the ending of the game, but all I'm gonna say is that it's pretty bittersweet, and I'm still trying to comprehend parts of it, as well as the game's story in general. To be honest, I don't know if there's multiple endings, like a good and bad ending or something, depending on how you do certain things, or if you collect all of something that affects how the game ends. I really have no idea. So aside from the sandbox, I'm not entirely sure how much replay value there is after beating the game. Would I recommend this game? Well, once again, I don't exactly have my VR legs, and so I'm definitely not used to playing super intense VR games such as this. It's almost impossible for me not to feel motion sickness after playing for an hour or so. That being said, for those of you who are very skilled and experienced VR gamers who are much more used to these types of intense physics-based VR games than I am, I definitely recommend you get this game. I know that might be kind of a niche audience. Well, then again, virtual reality games have always been kind of a niche thing in the gaming space in general. Well, either way, this game may not be for everyone, but I know there definitely exists an audience that will enjoy this type of game. While it hasn't gotten a whole lot of recognition so far, it does have some pretty good reviews. In fact, some of these reviews on the MetaQuest store page, I'd say, do a much better job at describing and doing this game justice than me. Not to mention, I also really like how responsive the developers are when it comes to responding to criticism and taking community feedback to improve their game over time. Deep Cuts is available on MetaQuest and Steam for compatible VR headsets, and I really hope it gets ported to PSVR 2 in the future. Oh, by the way, Deep Cuts is actually on sale right now during the Steam Summer Sale, which ends on July 10th, so I definitely recommend picking it up while it's cheaper. Thank you all for watching my review of Deep Cuts on MetaQuest. What are your thoughts on it? Do you own a VR headset and plan on getting this game for it? Please let me know in the comments below.